So, this panel is our last panel of the day. It's called Intergenerationality. Um, and we have four panelists, practitioners that cross generations. So, we're going to start here. Thank you, honey. From my left, the audience is right. Okay. First, we have Chancellor J, who's an entertainer. DC artist Chancellor J is a singer, songwriter, producer, and actor. He started his musical journey writing and recording at age 14. Since then, he quickly stepped into the music game, reaching the genres of R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul. He has been featured on WUSA 9's DMV Soundcheck, 93.9 WKYS's Versus, and he was a 2021 Whammy Awards finalist. This is Chancellor J. Yes. Then we have Stacey Williams, the Jazz Cat Herder. Stacey Williams is the proprietress of Jazz Cat Herder LLC, and Jazz Cat Herder's primary focus is on arts organization management and the ongoing development of financial literacy and business acumen in new and established talent. Jazz Cat Herder has taken the lead in providing an introduction to the business side of the entertainment industry to middle and high school aged artists and their parents, empowering them to make more educated and profitable business decisions. A few of our more notable clients have been Grammy winner and jazz saxophonist David Sanchez, music educator, executive director of the Jazz Art Institute Davey Yarbrough, and musicians Michael Bowie and Manny Kello. Stacey was instrumental in the startup and business development of the $2.5 million Festivals DC and its flagship project, the $1.5 million week-long Duke Ellington Jazz Festival, rebranded as the DC Jazz Festival. You might have heard of it. Stacey currently serves on the board of directors for Arts Administrators of Color, the advisory board for marketing opportunities in business and entertainment, and the planning committee for the musicianship's Whammies. She is the Virginia delegate of the DMV Music Stakeholders, an organization which advocates for the rights and concerns of DMV area musicians. Stacey Williams. We also have Amya Foster, who is a full-time student. She is a native Washingtonian and a college freshman at the beautiful Bowie State University, currently studying nursing. She's been professionally performing for over 5 years with the musicianship and the Washington Youth Choir. Clap it up for Amya Foster. And last but certainly not least, where did that go? We have the incomparable Nasar Abadey. Drummer and composer Nasar Abadey is the founder, leader, and driving force of Supernova. His debut CD, Mirage, was released in 2000 on the Amosaya record label, and the follow-up CD was released in 2006. He has since performed with Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Rouse, David Sanchez, Cyrus Chestnut, Sonny Fortune, Ella Fitzgerald, Eartha Kitt, Kenny Kirkland, Stanley Turrentine, Bobby Hutcherson, Pharoah Sanders, and many others. Additionally, he has appeared in various festivals in Italy, Canada, Washington, D.C., across the Caribbean, in New York City, and in Morocco, and multiple festivals. I won't name them all. Prior to forming Supernova, he was co-founder and leader, along with Joe Ford and Paul Gresham of Birthright, and co-producer of 2 albums, Free Spirits and Breath of Life. He formed the group Supernova to explore his compositional concepts through the many facets of African-American classical music, i.e. jazz. Moreover, he plays music which he describes as multi-D, with its multi-dimensional and multi-directional. Working within this paradigm, Supernova exercises his artistic license to perform and explore this African-American classical music that includes, but is not limited to, traditional African rhythms, R&B, reggae, New World, bebop, fusion, Afro-Cuban, Brazilian, New Age, freeform, etc. These terms are mere labels representing polarities of one energy. He has been the recipient of many awards and grants for performance, merit, and composition from everybody from the NEA to the Mid-Atlantic Arts Foundation. And his travels throughout his career have taken him to Europe, Africa, the Caribbean, and throughout the USA. But he still finds time to teach privately and perform workshops in the Washington, D.C. and surrounding area public schools for young artists and the Prince George's Arts Council. and the Thelonious Monk Institute of Jazz. Um, his colors, textures, and groove. This is Nasar Abadey. So the first question I want to ask the panel, and I would like everybody to answer it. Um, can you tell me an anecdote of a time somebody not in your generation enlightened you and it made a positive impact on your life? You start and then.
I say when I first started performing, uh, I didn't know too many people. So my first performance was at Tacoma Station Tavern in like close to Silver Springs, and I was the youngest person there. I was just turning 18. I couldn't get into the club. Like everybody was like, the security was trying to keep me out, and they was kept telling me like, even with all this going on, like all these setbacks and stuff, if you feel like this is what you need to be doing or this is your passion, you should just keep going. Like, stop worrying about who's telling you what not to do, or like you're not old enough to do this, or you can't be here because this is not like your place to be. You got to ignore those distractions. And I learned that like growing up, and I learned that from a lot of people, like even people that don't make music, just people that just knew I made music, and they saw something in me, so they just said keep going and stay consistent.
When I first moved to this area in the early 90s, hip hop was still growing. Go-go was real strong. I was new to the area. I didn't quite know the music scene. There's a guy called James Nichols who took me under his wing, and he taught me about the DC music scene, about go-go, about hip hop in this area, about the Washington Area Music Association, which I later became a board member for. And he took me on tour with him to Canada and a band called Too Unique. They were two hip hop girls. And that was my cutting my teeth in this area, in this music industry. And I learned a lot from him as far as touring, as far as dealing with record labels, and dealing with artists in general. Because before I had acted as a publicist, but under his wing, I got to be a tour manager, I got to be a publicist, I got to be a personal manager. I got to do a lot of different jobs within the music industry, and that was how I was able to learn and grow and to stay relevant.
So I would say personally, some of the it's kind of a funny story in my opinion. A lot of people who are older than me tell me, oh, what do you know about certain type of music? What do you know about 90s music? What do you know about 80s music? What you doing listening to this type of music? You have no business listening to this type of music. But of course, it would sound discouraging at first, but the more that you listen to it and the more that you get into the history behind why certain people made certain music and certain songs, it kind of influenced my tone when it came to me performing, and also influenced the story that I wanted to tell behind the music that I was making as well. Even though I'm not as prolific as some of the people who are up here right now, music will always be like the first love that I'll always ever have. And it'll always be a good passion that I'll always have as well. So understanding the story and the meaning behind certain music and certain topics, even though I don't have no business listening to it, it'll always influence my craft and it'll always influence me and who I am as a person.
Could you state the question once again?
I wanted for you to share a personal anecdote of a time that someone from another generation impacted your life in a positive way.
In my life, the most important people to me were the ones who were older than me. In learning the music that I play, we called it learning on the street. We were taught how to deal with jazz, which was at the time the popular music. And we learned from the older musicians who we sat next to. When I was in high school, I was asked to join a band at a local club 4 nights a week. I was a senior in high school, and all those guys were older than me, and they taught me music. And they were the first ones to take me out on tour. And that was 65, 1965.
So thank you for those reflections. I also, and I realize this should have been my first question, and now should have been my second question, but can you also tell us just about your own individual journey to making or cultivating the music? How did you get involved in music?
I personally, so I started making music my freshman year in high school, but all before that, I was singing in choir, of course, in church, but I just didn't see myself making music. And I was in the hallway one day when I was in high school, and I was singing just to some friends, and they were like, yo, why don't you sing? Why don't you make music? And I was like, that's just not something I wanted to do. I was an athlete. I played baseball growing up my whole life. I played sports my whole life, so I wasn't really on the musical side. So they told me, they were like, we have some equipment, we have some knowledge on how to produce. So I got into it a little bit. The writing side was a little shady, but I could sing, so it was like the voice could cover it up a little bit. So originally I just didn't have the vision for music, and then I just kept going and writing a little bit more, figuring out cadences and flows and how to write melodies, or how to figure out melodies, and it just came to be from there.
I've always been surrounded by music. I've belonged to a generation that had the good fortune of having grandparents in the household where I heard music from the 20s, 30s, 40s. My mother's music was the 50s, 60s, 70s. My music, of course, was the 80s, 90s. My daughter's music was the 90s, 2000, and my granddaughter's music is music that we play now. So I've had the good fortune of being exposed to all of those eras of music and being able to appreciate all of those eras of music. In addition, my grandmother was a guitar player. My aunt was a songwriter. She was one of the songwriters for the music, for the song Duke of Earl. And my father was a musician. So just being exposed to music and the music industry at an early age was what influenced me to take the track that I've taken. Because I've listened to stories from my aunt where she talks about their compensation for the Duke of Earl song. And they got like Cadillacs and washers and dryers, and to them that was a come up. But of course now, the value of that song now is immeasurable, and I'm proud to say that it's still in the family, and it's still earning royalties for the family. And I'm glad that that has happened that way, because I know a lot of other musicians, a lot of artists, it don't pan out that way for them.
I would say ever since I was like young, and I know that doesn't really hold any substance to anybody, but when I was younger, like in diapers, I would always be walking around in the house, tapping on something, play piano or humming or singing. I always just had my hands on some type of music. My mom would sing, my grandmothers would sing, my uncles would play instruments. So I would say I had like a really good influence when it came to me being around music. But I just had a real love and a real passion for music to where I followed through and I went into choirs and I sang with a lot of people, and luckily now I was a part of the amazing program, Washington Youth Choir, for a good while. I got to sing with a lot of cool people. I got to perform at a lot of good, cool places, and I networked with a lot of people. And I don't regret any of it, honestly. I loved my footing, and I loved my exposure when it came to my music and all that good stuff too.
One of the things that I neglected to say in my first statement, I am honored to be sitting here with young, talented people. Because our future lies in your hands. And therefore, I know what my responsibility should be to you, that I've got to make sure that when you see people like me, that it is something that you are influenced by in a positive way. And that you realize that you are at a stage where your creation is so on top because no one can tell you what it is you can't do. You don't know what it is that you can't do. And we can't tell you what you can do because it may stymie us. It may cause us not to be able to do it. You know, because you're coming with new ideas. The important thing is knowing that the new ideas will come with the problem. And that's where I have to be. I have to be there. My parents were the ones that pushed me over jazz. I used to hear albums, records that my mother and father, my father was a vocalist, but he was afraid to sing in front of me. He was very shy. But he had a voice like, you ever heard of Billy Eckstine? He had a voice similar to Billy Eckstine, but he just was shy to sing in front of me. My mother, she loved dance, but I heard the music never. And the first time I heard Yes. The first time I heard the drum was I was with my grandfather marching in a parade, and my grandfather was a Mason. And I would march with him. And there were drums in front of us and drums behind us. And those drums, the sound and the vibration of the drum got in my chest. It's still there. I still feel that vibration. I feel the vibration of music now. And I have to give that to my parents for giving me that opportunity. And I'll share with you a story quickly. When I was 12 or 13, I joined what was called the Columbia Record Club. In other words, what you could do was order albums, and they would just send them to you. And my parents did not know that I had joined this record club.
So money were you using?
Who's what?
Money.
They just, see, in those days, they sent it first, and then you had to pay
You could get like
later.
12 albums for a penny.
Yeah, they get you in with a penny. For a penny, you can choose 3 albums, and then after that, if you're not careful, you're paying for others that you really should not have gotten, because if you miss saying that, no, I don't want this month's offering, it's always an offering that you didn't want, like Doris Day or somebody like that. So actually my parents started paying for it because they were into the music. But there was an album that came, and it was called Ella Fitzgerald Live in Berlin. And on that record, she did a rendition of many songs, and one of them was Jack the Knife. And she did a very strong scat version of How High the Moon that you probably are familiar with, and maybe if you're not, it would be a good idea to check it out. But let's forward 15 years later. I was called at the last minute and asked by a DJ if I was interested in playing with Ella Fitzgerald. And I said, well, yeah. They said, well, you got to be at the theater in a half hour. So it was 7 o'clock. So I had to be there by 7:30. So I shaved, showered, and was there at 7:20. Because, at that time it was Buffalo, New York, and nothing is further than 15 minutes away in Buffalo, New York. So when I got to the theater, I found out that her drummer had a heart attack, and he couldn't make the gig. So his drums were forwarded but he didn't make it. So he's still alive. I mean, he was alive, but he didn't die, but he couldn't make the gig. So Tommy Flanagan brought me the book, and the book was this thick. He said, well, Ella's going to choose some songs from this book, and I'll come back and let you know. And I actually started sweating bricks because I started looking through the book because I wasn't a good reader at the time. I started looking through the book, and Roy Eldridge, who was from the 30s, trumpeter, he was on the show too. And he said, boy, what you doing? Stop looking at, you don't know what she's gonna call. Just stop looking at the book, man. So he started telling me jokes, loosen me up. You know, and then Tommy came out and said, well, okay, here are the songs that Ella is going to do. And he said, in the first song, we don't have a chart for. So he sang me the introduction, and he said, after the introduction, we'll be in it, and the introduction will be the same as the outro. Wow. So you'll play the same thing there. So I memorized that. I can sing it to you now, but I don't want to take up all that time.
Can you please?
Okay. He said, this is what she's going to do in the intro. Bang, he said, and then we're in. And that's the same as the outro. That ends the song as well. And he gave me a list of all the other songs she was going to sing. Guess what all of those songs were? All those songs from that album.
Oh, wow.
All of them, except a Beatles song. And of course, the Beatles were hot then, so I knew the Beatles song. So it was so easy to play that gig, but that just goes to show you how your angels float you. Your angels are always there to guide you. And so that was how I kind of got into this music, first of all, by joining the Columbia Record Club. I hope that answered your question.
So the next question I have is, I'm gonna break this up two ways. For Amya and Chancellor, you guys are artists that, you got some credits. Don't knock the credits that you have. And don't let anybody else knock the credits that you have, because y'all have been doing things. You didn't show up yesterday and start performing. But what's something that you wish older people would tell you or would have told you when you first started, or something that you want to know now, right? And then on the flip side, for the elders at the table, what's something that you want the young people to tell you? And you know, we'll get to the other side of it too, but.
Starting off, I just thought that being an artist, it was social media. It was just promoting yourself on social media, you know, make a new song, show it to your friends. I thought that was like the success, or like what I was looking for. And then I realized it's like a whole different world out there. Like even making music and being behind the scenes, like it's a whole different world out there. And I wish I could know more about the networking side, because growing up, they were like, you got a network, but that's all they told me. They didn't tell me how to network, or who should I talk to, or how to interact with people that's probably been in places I haven't been at where I want to be. So learning how to network was something I'm still learning, but I've gained more knowledge on how to network and how to promote myself professionally and verbally. So yeah, networking.
And I'll go to Amya next, but let me just tell you something real quick that I hold. Character will get you indoors that your talent never will. So in terms of the networking, if you just accept your own and be yourself, your character will get in the room way before you will, for sure. Go ahead, Miss Amya.
I would say celebrate your failures like how you celebrate your successes. I can't imagine how many times I've messed up so many events, so many things that I wanted to do in life, and I was told no, or this isn't the time, or you've messed up, you've made a mistake. and I would dwell and I would hinder it all for like a week or a month. But when it came to my successes, I would brush it off and I would be like, okay, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, of course I'm supposed to win. Of course I'm supposed to succeed. Like, what do you mean? But I always ran away from failure. I hated failing, and I still do to this day. But I would hope that a lot of people who are older than me would tell people who are in my situation, who are perfectionists and who want to be better at what they're doing and who don't get the time to celebrate their successes, to also celebrate that failure as well, and to let them, and to like make sure they know that it's okay to fail. I've failed plenty amount of times. It's life. You're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to get told no. But it's about what you do with those failures and what you do with those no's that will either hurt you or it will make you, along with those successes as well.
And the question, that's very helpful. Is there anything you want the older folks to tell you?
I'm trying to think. Y'all not old. Y'all been calling yourselves old.
Older. The older. Everything is relative.
Y'all not old.
Use that and use the one next to you. We need to use the mic for the recording.
I'm trying to think. I don't really know, because I get told a lot of really good advice. I would also practice on your craft. Work on subsections of your craft as well. Not just really your weaknesses, but like actually like giving memorable advice when it came to our craft. You can get told, hey, do this next time, but if you hear something, if you see something that I'm good at, but I'm also struggling in, try to give me a bridge or give me a lifeline or a plug. Don't just tell me, hey, you sound a little flat, fix that. Okay, how do I not sound flat? How do I make sure I know what I sound like when I do sound flat? How do I get back to where I need to be? You know, just give me a lifeline next time.
Okay, and then the part two for the older folks on the panels, the sages, the seasoned saints. What would you like the younger folks to tell you? What's something that you would like for them to tell you?
Ooh, that can be a whole panel unto itself. I'm coming at it from a different perspective because I'm not so much from the performing side as I am from the business side. And a lot of artists, performers, have a very romanticized view about what the entertainment industry and what the music industry is. Ladies and gentlemen, the music industry is not that wonderful girlfriend or guy friend that you think you're supposed to have. It is not. It is not going to open the door for you and let you glide in. It's not going to hold the chair out for you to give you a seat at the table. It's not going to look longingly in your eyes and tell you, I love you and you're the only one for me. It's not going to do it. But just like a relationship, you have to decide what your limits are, and you have to train people how to treat you. And for the women, know the difference between tacky and sexy. It's okay to be sexy, but don't confuse it with being tacky. There's a big difference. And for both men and women, the image that you pick up, be very careful in that image that you choose, because that will be your branding as Black entertainers. That will be your branding for life. You will always be known by that image, so be very careful with the image that you pick up. Lady Gaga started out with Kermit the Frog and meat dresses. When she wanted to be known as a serious musician, she changed it up. People started looking at her craft, at her ability to write songs, at her ability to actually play music, and her career took off from that. Now you look at our kids. When we get older and we start taking off more clothes, it's not appealing. It's not sexy. I don't think anybody who saw those BET Awards and had Little Kim strolling out there looking like Humpty Dumpty thought that that was sexy and that was relevant and that they were listening to anything that she said. So be careful about your image and what you pick up and how you present yourself, because you are going to get older, and with luck, you will grow and get older in this business, and you will need to have an image that can grow with you.
So, Brother Nasar, yes, thank you for that.
Wow.
The question is, what's something that you want the young folks to tell you?
Well, the first thing I would tell young people, learn how to deal with rejection, because you're going to be rejected, always. There's someone who has the power to help you that is going to reject what it is that you're trying to do. So you have to learn how to deal with it in a way that, knowing that when one door closes, another one will open. And had that door been open, you would have gone down a track that would not be to your advantage. I tell myself that all the time. I also work from a point of view of, at my age, I am an old dog that learns new tricks. I want young people to let me know what's going on in their lives. I learn from young people. I teach drums, I teach jazz history, and I teach jazz ensemble. The first thing that I do is I sit down and I'll ask them to play for me. I want to know what it is that they're doing, so I can be helpful towards them, particularly them. And I have to also rely on all the young people that are around me, not only that I'm teaching, but who are in my family. I've got 5 children, and the oldest is 57, and the youngest is 50 of my children. Of my grandchildren, I have 12 grandchildren. Of my great-grandchildren, I have 11. And so I'm constantly asking them for advice in certain areas, because my nose is in the music at all times. I'm dealing with composing music, writing music, playing music, or teaching music. So I'm down a rabbit hole. So I need to have advice from young people so I can understand what's going on today. This young man on my left has been one of the greatest advisors to me from the moment I first met him, Luke Stewart. Likewise. And so I hope I answered part of that question. Is there another part?
You absolutely know. I wanted to know what you wanted to know. And you mentioned, I've said this to you personally, but I'll say it on the panel. You mentioned that you study the music, and I told you that the moment that I was just like, oh, this is somebody different. The night Bohemian Caverns closed, Brother Abadey was insistent on knowing what the last note played in that venue was. And it's so important for our memory and our understanding. And I knew that in the hands of a master craftsman, the information of what that very last note was. And for those who are unaware, Bohemian Caverns is this legendary, really critical jazz venue that we lost to gentrification and displacement a few years ago. And that night was the night, nobody wanted it to be over. So we were all like, we played the jam, everything was over, and we leaving. And he was like, what's the last note? And then somebody would get back on. What was that last note you played? Finally, he said, I'm going home, but somebody report to me what the last note was. I think it was like a C sharp or something. I don't remember anymore.
I think it was between 2 notes, a G or a B flat, because the person that was playing the piano was drummer. Quincy.
Yep,
Quincy
it
Phillips.
was Quincy.
He was on piano, and I asked him what was the last note. He had to think about it. He took him a couple of weeks to get back to me.
So then let me ask you, I'll ask one more question and toss it to the audience. In terms of art as a means of transmitting culture, what is the value you find in studying different generations? And I'll say it again, in terms of art as a means of transmitting culture, what's the value that you find in studying different generations?
The history, the documentation, the changes of culture, the different perspectives, the technology, just a little bit of everything. Because like I said, I had the good fortune of being exposed to music from as far back as the 20s all the way to now. And just seeing how songwriting has changed, how lyrics have changed, how the times have changed and how those times are reflected within the music. It has to tell our story. Nobody else is gonna tell our story but us. And we need to tell our story, and we need to be honest with our story, with ourselves and with the world about what our story is. And I think the younger generation has that. They're very raw with the reality of their world, and I like that.
I 100% agree with that. I would say, like you said, the story. When I listen to a lot of older generation music, I can almost 99% of the time always relate to what they're talking about when it came to what they were singing or what they were talking about, regardless of what, or even playing. I could tell by the emotion that they were trying to portray. And I'm a strong believer that history always repeats itself, and history always can repeat itself through music. So I believe there really isn't that big of a cultural difference when it comes to our music. It's just the presentation of which the music is being portrayed. That's simply it. Of course, my generation is very raw when it comes to a lot of the things that are happening within our lives, within the world as well, but you can't tell me that people in the 90s or the 80s weren't talking about certain struggles that they were having, or certain breakups, or certain love, or certain joys, and also trials and tribulations that they were going through. It's just presented differently. The culture was always there. The culture will always be there. It's just about the presentation of which the culture is presented, in my opinion.
Black music, African American classical music, everyone wants to play it. Everyone on the planet wants our culture, to the extent where they will take parts of it and call it theirs. They'll change the name. Like rhythm and blues became rock and roll. And so it's very important that we understand where our culture came from. What is going on today that can be documented that was on this planet 5,000 years ago. We got to go back. We got to go back into the ancient world. We've got to understand that everything that we do, when you look around on the planet, how many people do you know that want to play Chinese music? How many people that you know want to play Indian music? Like, you go to any country, any nation, there's jazz there. There's African American music in its classical sense all over the world. And that's why now when you look around, when I teach, where I teach, most of my students do not look like me. They look like Asians, Europeans. When I say Europeans, I'm talking about American Europeans, or Europeans, period, from Europe. They don't look like me. I have to realize that what we have is so rich and so valuable, but we throw it away. Every time there's a new movement, we throw it away. So that means that, for an example, bebop. bebop was a very strong music that started in the 40s. But now, there are musicians that do not want to play bebop. They want to play what music is called today. It's all right to know your roots and to play your roots. You don't have to do it all the time, but it's good to know it because somebody's going to come up, and it has happened, get up in your face and present you with what you are, what they've studied about you. They're getting master's degrees and PhDs. They're teaching our culture around the world. And then they bring it back to us and say, oh, well, this is what's going on with your people. This is what's, it's serious. And so I think it's very important for all of us to know who we are, where we came from, and why. How many of you have heard of Max Roach, the great drummer, bebop drummer? Max Roach, my wife and I were driving him around one day in the city, and he looked around and he said, and I remember this, he said, I don't understand. He said, what was it that caused us to get so much hell? Why do we get so much hell? Just walking down the street, we get hell. And that's a question we all should ask. What is it that we can do to change that? Well, we got to start with ourselves and then generate it down to the youth. The youth and the elders, we should all be friends. We should all be helping each other along the way, along this path, along our journey, because there are some things that the youth see that we may not see, and there are many things that the elders see that the youth do not see. And I always, with my students, very first day in my history class, I let them know who I am, how old I am, how many children I have, how many offspring I have, just to let them know that where they are, I've been there. And so I can help you with that. But now you can help me with where you are now. You're 18 years old. Those folks who are in my classes, they start as freshmen. They're 18 years old. So I can take you way back before 18 years. But tell me why you're into what you're into now. What do you hear in it? This is a very strong point. Artists are mystics. If we understand that we are mystics, and we see and relate to the universe as mystics, then everything will become available to us. But we first got to realize that we're mystics. We've got to be in tune. How many of us know that we're in Mercury retrograde? That's what's going on out in the cosmos. How many of us know that we're in the equinox? How many people know? How many people act on it? Well, that's our job as artists, to be in tune with those kinds of things. It's mysticism. Hope that helps.
I believe the music and the music culture, like in the progression of music, is a beautiful thing. Like so I studied music production in college, and we like listen to music from the 40s, 50s, 60s. And I just think it's a beautiful thing that the same chords that we hear in songs from the 40s, 50s, and 60s can be heard in some of our music today. And somebody like our age or younger than me might not hear it, but somebody that's older, a little more seasoned, they can hear those progressions. They're like, oh, this reminds me of this song. But we don't hear that. But when they play the song, it's like we connect our generation to their generation, to what they heard. And I feel like what, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Mr. Abadey, how you said about like owning our culture. I truly do believe we need to own our culture. But the fact that we have the ability to reach other people that's not in our race or our region, I think that's something that's like need to be done. We need to take ownership, like of to keep our masters, royalties, all that. I believe that. I truly do. But the fact that one day I could go outside or I probably touch people outside of these countries. I truly believe that. But you can go outside one day and somebody who you don't that you can't look in the mirror and like he looks like me or she looks like me. If you can touch them, how you touching the people in your own community, I think that's like something that needs to be happening around the world, so we can create that unity within ourselves and then within the people outside of us.
Thank you. I want to open it up. Are there any questions in the audience?
Well, may I respond to what
Yes,
the brother
sir.
just said?
In the meantime,
I
if you have
agree
a
with
question,
you.
think about it.
And wholeheartedly, everything I said, that's exactly what I meant. I probably said it another way. But I mean the same thing, man. Yes, we're on the same page.
Any audience questions? Okay, well, I'll ask one more. I think it requires engaging with folks that are in a different generation than you requires some effort, right? Because y'all don't listen to the same music, you're not going to the same places, the material realities of your life aren't the same. So in order to do that, you have to actively practice it. Can you speak about your own individual practice of engaging different generations and what that looks like in a very accessible way?
When I started making music, I felt like personally I was one-dimensional, and I say as in I thought that R&B music was the only thing I was gonna do growing up. Like that was just gonna be my one lane, my one route. And I feel like the music I was making previously was just for fun, and I wasn't thinking big as in trying to reach big communities. I was trying to please my friends, my friend groups, like people I went to school with. That was like, that felt like that was my goal, that was my success. But when the pandemic hit, it changed a whole new leaf, and I started, like, I was already exposed to older songs, older music, but I kind of got in touch into the soul side and composing and writing into that. And the music I made seemed more universal. Like, it can touch somebody that's some years older than me and some years younger than me. Like, overall, I just felt like I grew as an artist and I grew as a writer and a person, and I knew that if I hear somebody that's older than me saying they like this song, and I hear somebody that's my same age that I know normally doesn't listen to that type of music, and they say, oh, I really like that. That's something different. Like, it's something that I don't really expect to hear, to see from somebody your age or where you come from. I feel like I was doing the right thing, or I felt like that was, it made me happy seeing that they were happy of what my product was and what my final product was.
For me, as I said earlier, just being exposed to all the music generationally through my own family has been a catalyst for me to do the stuff that I do and to do things like this, to listen to people in the here and now and artists in the here and now and what they think of music, how they create music, and what music means to them. But again, coming from the business perspective, business is business all the world through, and I'm still hoping to get artists to have that gleam in their eye when they talk about their music, to have that same gleam in their eye when they talk about balance sheets, assets, capital gains, intellectual property value. That's my goal.
I would say when it came to listening to certain music and performing certain music as well, one of the biggest gratifications that I've gotten was somebody who could be my grandmother's age or my great-grandmother's age, and they came up to me and they would tell me, hey, you did a really good job singing this song. I didn't think you were going to sing this song the way that you sang it. That's one of the biggest gratifications that I got, along with people who are my age listening to 90s music and neo-soul, and them saying, oh, not you listening to old head music, but you turn back around and
you hear them listening to the same song that you was listening to just a week ago. And I would ask them, I would be like, wasn't you just getting on me for listening to old head music, but here you are listening to the same music that I was listening to. But I would always just have a really big smile on my face because I would say a love language that I have is sharing music. When you're able to share music, old and new, and you're able to bring people in good times and bad times, that's just a new level of gratification that I can't even explain to people. When you're able to just sit around with different generations of people and just listen to an ongoing playlist of old and new music, and you don't hear complaining, and you turn back around a week or a month or a couple months later or even a year later and you visit those people again and you ask them, hey, what have you been listening to? What's your favorite song? And they tell you a song that's not even a part of their generation, or they weren't even born when that song came out. And you just remember in the back of your head that you put them on to that song. It just does something to me each and every time that I can't even explain.
That's good. And just for clarification, this old head music was 90s R&B?
Look, I was, that's why I was saying, y'all not old in my opinion, but a lot of people.
Brownstone is old, 112 is old school. Jesus,
Yeah.
take the wheel. All right.
They consider Tupac old now, which is crazy.
Oh man, okay. Brother Abadey, round us out. Just again, the question is about the practice of engaging. How do you engage people from other generations? Engage people from other generations, like as a practice.
Well, I always I didn't realize it until maybe some years ago, but I started to realize that I'm always, people come back to me, young people, and it happened yesterday, as a matter of fact. They'll come to me and tell me that they've been watching me, and they've been observing how I get along in life, what I do, what my habits are, because they're looking for a model, because they're at a point where they're searching. And again, at my age, I haven't stated it yet, but I'm 75 years old. And those who were my mentors are gone now. Most of them are gone. The ones who were calling me for gigs, they're gone. The one walking out that door back there, Tom Porter, he's one of my mentors. Me and him go back a long way. He's older than me, right? Yeah, he didn't. Go on, man. Go ahead. But it's important to me that I am a beacon. I want to be a beacon. I want to be the light that precedes me. And I want it to be so positive that it has a positive effect on people. On 2 occasions in my career, one with someone else's band and one with my band, I had someone come up to me after the concert and say to me, thank you for your music, because before I came to this concert, I was considering suicide. Now, when you can save a life like that, it's worth your whole career, because basically you were a positive force that person perceived, and what you gave them as a gift is your music was healing. And like any other practitioner, you want to heal, but you also want to be healed. So I am healed when I play my music, and I'm even more healed when those folks come to me and tell me that they've been healed by listening to what my offering is. And that's what I want to continue to do. John Coltrane said that I want to be a positive force in the world. I want to heal people through my music. And that impressed me when I was 16 years old, when I first heard John Coltrane and first heard A Love Supreme. That's what he wanted to do.
Thank you. Are there any questions in the audience? Okay, well then we will close with any last words from the panel? Any final thoughts?
I'm kind of blessed to share this panel with such gifted people and to have this opportunity. Coming from where I come from, not too many people had this opportunity, and not too many people have the chance to exhibit their talent to the world. So even at my age of 21, I want to help the people out that don't have that opportunity, and I hope that one day my career leads me to that point. And I just want to say thank you again for this.
Our counterparts will make music and have fun along the way. We seem to have it backwards in that we have fun and make music along the way. And I think we need to get in the habit of understanding that this is indeed a business. So make all the music you want and have fun along the way, but always, always handle your business.
To be able to sit up here with such talented people is not only overwhelming, but it's just so satisfying as well. To be able to just look at people who went through life and who've gone through so many things within their life, and yet they're still able to continue to share their gifts and their crafts that they've been blessed with is just, there's not even a word for that, honestly. So I want to personally thank you for continuing to share your gifts and continuing to share your passion and continuing to get up in the morning and say, even though yesterday wasn't a great day, I'm going to make today an even better day than what yesterday was. And thank you for giving us younger generation insight on how to be like y'all, if not continue to be better as well. Because I'm not saying that we will be better, but it's always good to be placed in the right path to become better. That way you can sit back and reflect and say, I did what I needed to do. The state of the world is where it needs to be, and I've done enough. So thank you.
I'll chime in on that. Yes, it is our responsibility to give to the young people so that they will be better than us on every level. But we have to give it to them. We have to let them know that we're here to support them. And also, it's very important to note that we didn't come here together, but we live here together. And we've got to make this a better place than we found it. I am in awe in all of you. I want all of us and all of you here to make yourself better, force yourself to make yourself better, whatever it is you do. And just know that there's no one on this planet that can be as great as you are, because you are all unique. You all have something that no one else has, something very unique. And discover what that is if you haven't yet, and deal with it. Bring it to the forefront. Share it with your family. Bring it to your children. Give it to your uncles, your aunts, and your parents. Make sure that they understand that you have decided to be the highest spiritual being
living in a physical body. That's what we are. This is our home, this body. When we say I, many people think that we're talking about our bodies, I. No, we're talking about I, the spirit, the soul that exists in this body. And we will leave this body when we die. But our soul, our spirit will continue. When I worked with the brother Ah, we had a song that we would sing, and he taught it to us. And it goes, we will never die, 'cause we be indestructible consciousness, consciousness, consciousness. That's our beat. That's our rhythm. You can hear it all over the world. Hope that helps.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. And this brings NEXTfest DC 2022 to a close, so I'd like to thank you all for your participation. We'll see you next year. Thanks for watching this video from NEXTfest Culture and Conversation series, presented by CapitalBop. There is no way to fully replicate the spirit of those days at NEXTfest, but we are so glad to have this curated archive to share with you. At CapitalBop, our mission is to promote, present, and preserve the sound and soul of DC. To stay connected, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, or find us at CapitalBop.com. Be sure to subscribe to CapitalBop's YouTube channel for more content like this. And again, that's CapitalBop with an A. CapitalBop.com. Maybe I'll catch you at the next show.